Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Guild Wars 2 video. Today, as you might have guessed by the title, is another build. I've just been really enjoying crafting builds that are not the best, quite honestly, but are a lot of fun for open world PvE. And considering we have build templates now, it's much easier for me to just play around and have fun. So this video is gonna be some fun. Just pure fun, and not a lot of like min-maxing of raid builds and stuff. But honestly, I don't know how viable this is in raids. You can try it. It's probably good for escort and probably good for a couple strike missions. But nevertheless, let's talk about it. So I am titling this build the Weapon Master, considering it is on the warrior, and warriors already have a wide use of weapons. And in order to capitalize on this, I've decided to run sword. If I swap to my other weapon set, sword, axe, and mace. I don't often see a lot of offhand mace being ran, so I was like, I'm gonna include it and do a double mace take. Yeah, more about my weapons and my utility skills later. But first, let me cover my equipment. I'm kind of using the same equipment as I have for the primal build that I made a while back. It's just pure damage mostly, but there's another motorcycle. Oh my god, this happened in my last video. Anyway, yeah, so mostly power, though the weapons can vary a little bit. Like this has precision and condition damage on it. This is a celestial stat. I just needed another mace, and this is what was in the bank. So you guys can min-max it a little bit more on your own spare time. But this is Ascended. I am running Ascended Berserker with a Scholar, Superior Rune of the Scholar for more damage, and just as much Berserker. There's a little bit of toughness and vitality in here, just to also help me survive a little bit. But yeah, play around with it as much as you want, and let's move over. That was weird. That's strange. It has a lighting effect on the character. Oh, I never knew that. That's interesting. Moving over to the actual main stage for this video. This is the build. The specializations I am running include Strength, Arms, and Discipline. I wanted to make a build focused on weapons. So the bulk of my damage comes from my weapon skills and also augmenting my power modifiers and frosty modifiers. So one thing I will say, I'm now going to talk about the specializations, but the minor traits are also extremely important with this build, or they can be. I feel like a lot of people sometimes forget about them, but these minor traits are actually quite nice and really, amp up this build a little bit more. So for strength, the reckless dodge is nice, just extra damage. I'm deciding to take peak performance in conjunction with 3 physical utility skills, which I will explain once I get to those. Building momentum is nice, just to continue to use your burst skills. It regains 15 endurance. Oh no, this is for dodging, to play with the reckless dodge. I apologize. I thought it was adrenaline. Never mind. Sorry. I'm deciding to take Great Fortitude for a little extra survivability in open world if I'm outnumbered. I did end up dying a couple times when I went after multiple branded and veteran hydras and just big group events by myself, but that might have been my fault. Pinnacle of Strength, your might applies more power to you, so keep stacking might. And then finally for the Grandmaster, I'm taking Berserker's Power to do more damage based on the amount of adrenaline I spent on my burst skills. Next up, I'm deciding to take Arms. We have Furious Burst. Using a burst skill grants Fury. Fury is nice for increased critical chance. And it also augments condition damage, which is nice. I'm taking Signet Mastery. Signets gain reduced recharge, and you gain a ferocity bonus when you use them. And they also have a reduced cast time, and you'll cast Lesser Signet of Might on yourself when you are at 50% health. Oh no, when you strike a foe at 50% health. So it's nice. I don't often pop them, but I should get in the habit of activating them more often. Oh, I went down there. Next, minor deep strikes condition damage. This isn't a condition focused build, but considering I have a little bit of a condition modifier on my sword, it's nice to have just to deal a little bit more damage. Sundering Burst. Burst skills inflict vulnerability if they hit and inflict additional vulnerability if the attack is a critical hit. This is really nice to continue to do more damage. Bloodlust, a chance to inflict bleeding. It helps with deep strikes and if you're on the sword variant and you happen to have condition damage. And finally, I'm deciding to take dual wielding. Attack speed is increased when wielding a main hand weapon in your offhand. This is really good for mace. I also really wish, I don't know if this is how this trait works, but I wish it worked if you were just using any like weapon that is usable in the main hand and the offhand. It doesn't need to be axe, mace, sword. It'd be nice if this applied to sword, axe. I'm not sure if it does. It might. I have to further test that, but I know it works for mace at least. It's a 20% attack increase. Additionally, if it doesn't work for sword, axe, you can swap to axe, which is probably really good too. But I wanted to just give this a little bit of variety. I would also consider taking Furious. Really any of these Grandmasters. Critical hits grant bonus adrenaline and gain a stacking condition damage effect. Adrenaline is nice, so you do your bursts more often. And I would also decide to take Burst Precision. Burst skills have an increased critical strike chance to always crit, therefore gaining more use out of the Sundering Burst. So honestly, Burst Precision or dual wielding I would really like, or I'd recommend. And then finally, we have Discipline. Versatile Rage. Gain adrenaline on weapon swap. This is pretty useful if you're weapon swapping a lot, such as I am with this build, just to gain different effects on my weapon skills and damage. For the minor trait, or not minor, but the first major trait, we have Warrior Sprint. Run faster while wielding melee weapons and deal increased damage while you have swiftness. Movement skills break immobilization when used. I don't know how often I actually have swiftness on. Maybe I should actually use the utility skill that gives me swiftness. I don't know. To do any of it give swiftness? Oh, you could use Balance Stance. It's a 40-second cooldown. You can use Balance Stance if you want. But swiftness is nice, and you'll do a little bit more damage. That's all I would really recommend on that line. Fast Hands. Weapon swapping recharges faster by 5 seconds. This is really good. Destruction of the Empowered. Deal increased damage per boon on your target. This whole line is kind of weird because I'm not running banners. So, you know, if you do happen to run a banner, you can take this. And then Brawler's Recovery, remove conditions when you swap weapons. This is really good for PvP. So Destruction of the Empowered is what I'm kind of running. And then Versatile Power. Gain might on weapon swap and burst skills gain reduced recharge. This is really nice. I'm deciding to take Burst Mastery for my Grandmaster. Burst skills deal more damage, they grant swiftness, and restore a portion of adrenaline spent. So this is where most of my swiftness is coming from, uptime. I don't have any concentration, but, you know, if you put a little bit of concentration, like a Diviner stat, like a couple of pieces of Diviners, just to get the swiftness a little bit better. You could also go Heightened Focus for quickness, or you could do Axe Mastery if you are dual wielding axes. So those are the specializations I'm taking. Overall, I'm having a lot of fun with it. The sword axe combo is interesting. I'm doing it for slight bleeding, also mobility with Savage Leap, and just a really heavy hitter for the final thrust. And also gaining quickness and fury. Oh no, you only gain quickness. Did this used to grant you fury? This might only grant quickness now. Anyway. Gain frosty. No, I thought it was in the Axe Mastery. Never mind. So, the weapons. I'm going to explain my weapons. Sword for some mobility and just damage and utility with a little bit of bleed. Offhand axe for very heavy hits. I'm taking mace for the block potential, gaining adrenaline, and also vulnerability application. Also, this applies weakness, so it's a little bit more defensive. Pommel Bash is a great daze if you want to interrupt a foe. I would actually really like Pommel Bash to deal a little bit more damage because it only does 375 damage. However, it is on a 12-second cooldown, so you get a daze quite frequently. For the offhand mace, I'm taking Crushing Blow to apply more vulnerability, and also quite a hefty hitter, if you can land it. And then Tremor. Tremor is a very interesting skill, which I don't see too many people running. I don't know, it could just be me that I don't see a lot of people running offhand mace. But you smash the ground and it sends a conal wave to knock down enemies and apply a little bit of damage. I'd like it if this damage was like increased by like 10%, just something small. But yeah, those are the weapons that I'm deciding to take, and because weapons are such a main feature for this build, I thought it would be logical to explain the weapons I'm using and why I'm using them. For my utility skills, I'm taking Mending for the physical peak performance, and it also is just a really short cooldown. Kick, because it has 3 charges, deals some damage, peak performance. And Stomp, because it's a stun break, and also is great to zone enemies. Signet of Might to improve my power. Granted, you could use Signet of Fury to gain a little bit more crit strike chance. Or you could use Doliac Signet if you are, you know, taking a lot of damage, which I might have wanted to use Doliac Signet in a couple fights out in the open world. And finally, I'm taking Signet of Rage to gain passive adrenaline, and if I happen to activate it, Fury, Might, and Swiftness. This is also a great Swiftness application that I could probably run. Rampage is so-so in PvE, and Battle Standard is so-so in PvE. Unless you're doing a world boss or a strike mission, Battle Standard could be really nice. So now I'm going to show some gameplay, talk a little bit more about this build and why I like it, and yeah, I'll see you guys over on the gameplay section. Welcome to the gameplay section. You might notice that my healing skill is actually Healing Signet. This was a little bit before, and I've since changed it to the physical heal skill. However, Healing Signet worked pretty well until I was dying quickly. But here, it's just kind of showcasing the interrupting ability and ability to stack vulnerability on a target. And that's primarily why I really enjoy this. When you're fighting one enemy, maybe 2, you have a really nice time of controlling where they are, interrupting them. If they have a break bar, you can probably interrupt them and break their break bar fairly comfortably. This build becomes a little bit weaker when you are fighting multiple people, up more than like 4 or 5. But I really enjoyed this build, and I'll actually probably be running it a little bit more, and you know, tweaking some utilities, playing around with some utilities. Once again, my builds, I like to try to make them as flexible as possible, and as adaptable as possible. But I really enjoyed the weapon focus that I went for. Oftentimes playing more magical characters, it's more about the profession mechanic and also the utility skills rather than say the weapon. But this is focusing like doing weapon damage, hitting things with your weapons, and using your utility skills to control enemies. And with the trait modifiers, it's pretty nice. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little build. Tried to make it kind of short. I know sometimes people might not like watching like 15 minutes of someone explaining just a build. But thank you everyone for watching if you've gotten to this point. All my links are down below. Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Patreon, PayPal. And yeah, like the video if you liked it, comment below your thoughts on this build or any other builds I should try out. I'd love to test them. And subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys later. Bye everyone. Mwah.